Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and the other day I was going through my fabric stash and I found this cute little panel. Now, I've had this panel for a long time, so I guess it's time to turn it into a quilt. Now, if you happen to have a panel or some fabric that has little pictures on them, regardless if they're square or rectangle, this is a great pattern to use, and you're going to be able to customize it to the shape that you have. So this panel has 6 rectangles, and I want the quilt to have 12. So I'm going to duplicate the size of the pictures into a fabric that's going to match. Then I'm going to take other fabrics, and these are all just from my stash, and I've pulled out all of the colors, even if I'm not going to use them, that are going to match. Then I'll be able to take the pictures and that extra piece and cut them all the same size so that I will have 12 exactly the same. I was able to cut my panel pieces 6.5 by 7.5, so I've duplicated that size. Keep in mind that if you have a print that is directional, to make sure that they are going in the same direction. They're going to be sewn exactly the same way. However, the color variation is going to be reversed. What is going to be here will be opposite here. So I want to choose a border to go around. The first border that goes around will touch in the center. So you're going to want to make sure that the 2 colors are going to go together. Then choose what fabric you want around the one and what fabric you want around the other. You just need to cut them at 2.5 inches because you're going to have a 2.5 inch border all the way around each square. The fabric will depend on how many panels you have. The first strip measurement is going to be the length of the pattern. Mine is 7.5, so I'm going to take the 2.5 by 7.5 and sew them on both sides. When those 2 are sewn on, you're going to need the measurement to go right across the top. So just measure right from the center to get the size you need. In my case, I started with this as 6.5. With my 2 borders on, this is going to equal 10.5. So I'll sew on the 2 10.5 inch strips on the top and the bottom. And you need to do it for all of the squares. So I'm going to have the purple on one, the pinks on the other. And when you have them all sewn together, press the seam allowances going out so you're able to see that little intersection right there. The next thing we're going to do is put cornerstones on. And your cornerstones are going to be opposite. Choose one color for the one pattern and choose another color for the other pattern. So I'm going to do the yellow on the one and the green on the other. Now there are 2 ways to sew these cornerstones on a diagonal. The first one is to draw your line from your corner to corner on the square, match up the 2 sides, and you'll be able to follow that line and stitch right down the center. And then when it is opened up, you're going to have that half there. And then you will be able to trim off this extra piece, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now the advantage to this way is you can see those corners. The disadvantage is you can't see that little point. So there is another way of doing it. So instead of drawing the line from one corner to the other corner, you're going to draw the line on the back of the square. And those will be your stitching lines. Now to do these lines, you're going to need a ruler with a 45-degree angle on it. Put your pencil right at that corner where your 2 seams match up, and I hold it there. Then I take the ruler with the 45-degree angle, and I keep my point there because that way I already know it's there. I won't have to look back at it. You're going to be able to take that ruler and push it right up against that pencil. Then take one of the 45-degree lines and line it up to the sides. And when my one line is perfectly straight, I'm able to just draw a line from that center out. So this is now at a perfect 45-degree angle. The square you're going to need for the corners is the same. They're both 4.5 inches. Now you'll be able to match up the corners, and you'll use this line for stitching. You're going to be able to stitch all the way down. Now the disadvantage of this way is you don't actually see those little tips, but you get this accurate. So there are two different ways of doing it. Try them both and see what way you like best. So you're going to need to get all 4 squares on, and when you press them back, it is going to be the same size as you started. Trim off this little piece here, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And when they're trimmed, take 1 set of blocks and press the seam allowance going in. Take the other set of blocks and press it so the seam is going towards the center. Now we're going to sew them together in rows. We're going to have 3 blocks in a row. So for 1 row, we're going to have 2 of one panel, 1 of the other. Then the next row will have 2 of this design and 1 of this. And then it's going to continue down. So you're going to have 3 blocks per row and 4 rows. And when you go to sew them together, because those seams are opposing, they're going to match up. And I'm just going to put 3 very simple borders on. And you can put whatever size borders you'd like. Now, if you had fabric that you were able to cut at 6.5 by 7.5, when this is done and if you add 3 borders on, each of them cut at 2.5 inches, by the time it's all put together, this is going to make a perfect size for a baby quilt. And with some simple borders, the quilt is done. Now I just kept adding borders until it equaled a crib size batting. And those 4 fabrics I used in the center, I started with 1/2 yard and I did have a little bit left over. This is a great quilt to use some big prints or some fussy cut pictures that you like. And it's quick and easy, and you're going to be able to use up some of your stash. Now, if you want it to be only 2 colors, just remember you need to reverse those, and they're done. I do hope you give it a try. It is a fun block to make. And as always, thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe and come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.